Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. Okay, I had another bad idea this time. I wanted to try out another new buffed Pokemon and decided that this was my justification for building a level 50 Shadow Alola Ninetales for the Open Ultra League. And I thought this would be a good idea. I thought Cradily and Zygarde would be a lot more common than maybe they were. Maybe I was swinging at Ghost, but I guess we'll find out. Kicking things off, of course, with game number 1 is going to be Shadow Alola Ninetales into Shadow Galarian Weezing. This is an awful lead, unfortunately, because due to the pacing on Shadow Galarian Weezing, it will outpace me to the second Psyshock. And Psyshock is never going to one-shot either, so I'm getting out of there. Safe switching into Golisopod. They land a Sludge onto my Golisopod. That does quite a lot of damage, and now they're bringing in the Giratina. So far, so bad in this match. Not a whole lot of positive I can say for this matchup in particular. Aqua Jet after Aqua Jet going to be thrown at the Giratina. Giratina is going to continue to farm up a massive amount of energy, which is going to prove to be problematic for my team in the endgame. Fortunately, I was able to at least bait out the Giratina, so my Typhlosion doesn't have to see it in the endgame. They are going to fire off a Shadow Sneak at the Shadow Alola Ninetales and now bring back in their Shadow Geezing. However, I am going to be able to draw First Blood with this Psyshock. Psyshock onto the Geezing is going to be shielded, and now they are going to be able to retaliate with a Sludge, and they'll probably win CMP as well. I believe they're only one turn behind me here. So Sludge just straight up KOs the Ninetales. That is not the best showing of that 296 XL candies we used to get to that point. But with that being said, in comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion is looking to get ahead on energy, firing off Incinerate after Incinerate, and now looking to make a catch. Unfortunately, no catch is to be. However, if I give up both shields here, Typhlosion may very well be able to do quite a bit with this energy lead it has, and we know this Giratina is not going to be on Ancient Power. That's just a Dragon Claw. Typhlosion can tank that and get the full Incinerate farm down. What is it they have in the back? The opponent's thinking about it for quite some time. What is it they decide to bring in? It's going to be the Lapras, but Lapras not going to be very comfortable given the fact that Typhlosion has so much loaded energy, 100 in fact, and it's a Shadow Lapras at that. That makes this matchup so much better. As you can see, the Thunder Punches are adding up very fast onto the Lapras. I decide to wait a turn, and now, oh no, I just threw. I could have just threw the Thunder Punch. No, the Sparkly Aria KOs, and now we're going to get Psywave down because of my indecision. GG's to this trainer. Shadow Alola Ninetales looking for a little bit of redemption, and it's going to get it on the next lead as it leads into Goodra, immediately forced to safe switch into another Pokemon weak to the Ice typing in Virizion. Virizion is now going to be tasked with either tanking or shielding a Shadow Weather Ball. That is not negligible amounts of damage. We get the catch and the sneak of the Leaf Blade and Incinerate landing onto the Virizion. Virizion's going to be able to make one further move. That's okay. With this energy lead, the Typhlosion is very happy with taking 2 moves for the first time in its entire life. In comes the Goodra, but now Goodra is going to have to take a Blast Burn, and although this is resisted, nobody told Typhlosion that did a lot of damage, and now this is a very nice range for our Ninetales to just come in. We are going to likely have to burn clock a little bit here as the Jellicent is able to make a move, and we don't really want to take our Ninetales HP any lower than it is. They shield a potential Dazzling Gleam, and now we bring in the Pod. Pod is going to be just absorbing all this energy from the Jellicent. Jellicent fires off a Surf. The Surf does not do much of any damage at all, and now we are going to no-shield the next move as well. This is likely to be the Shadow Ball, but it will not KO as this is the Ultra League. Everything here is super duper bulky. Firing off an Aqua Jet onto the Jellicent here. Jellicent is shrugging off this damage, no problem at all. In comes the Goodra. Goodra's going to have to eat a X-Scissor here. X-Scissor does do some sizable damage. We wait a few turns so that we can get the switch into the Ninetales, and now Ninetales is just going to no-shield and fully farm down the Goodra. Ninetales actually doing something in this game as opposed to the last one where it literally got switched in, died to a Sludge, and that was the end of the story. Now the tables have turned. The Psyshock does a massive amount of damage, and now we are firing off a Weather Ball. The Jellicent is low enough where the Weather Ball plus the Powder Snows will likely KO. 2 more, and we get the Psyshock, the full undercharge BM for absolutely no reason. Ninetales is not this good. GG's. Shadow Alola Ninetales looking to beat the useless allegations as we now lead into a Cradily. It's actually one of the Pokemon we were looking for with this build, and fortunately we do have an advantage where we can throw on suboptimal timing on 5 as soon as we get the Weather Ball, so that we can either force big damage or a shield off of the Cradily, and Cradily decides to shield up. They're going to retaliate with a Rock Tomb, however, that's not going to be enough to KO, so we can comfortably no shield, and they're in an awkward spot where they would need another move to KO. They're going to safe switch into their Jellicent after banking a little bit of energy, and now we bring in Golisopod. With a shield advantage, this is a very easy way for us to maintain switch by bringing in Golisopod here. They're going to be able to fire off a potential Shadow Ball here, but I'm fine with just shielding up Shadow Ball number 1, as Shadow Ball number 2 won't even KO. Firing off an Aqua Jet onto the Jellicent. Aqua Jet, of course, the more efficient move to go for it is newly buffed and absolutely terrifying. They're going to fire off another Shadow Ball, and Golisopod easily able to take that damage. Also easily able to get the full farm down of the Jellicent. Jellicent is going to be an absolute shambles there, and the opponent has a decision to make, opting to bring in their Galarian Weezing, and now firing off an Aqua Jet, looking to pivot out into the Typhlosion. The opponent sees that and now switches out into Cradily. Cradily fires off a Rock Tomb. However, I no shield because there's no way that's going to be enough to KO, and there's also no way that they're going to be able to Bullet Seed me down. They're going to reach another Rock Tomb here, but I'm just going to build up to 100 energy and send that Blast Burn. Let's see how much damage this Blast Burn is going to do. Down goes Cradily, and now we are -2. The G-Zing comes back in, but they're tasked with no shielding a Blast Burn. They shielded up even though it's -2. In comes the Alola Ninetales for the snipe. Big damage onto the G-Zing, and now, although they are able to fire off a move here, we do have 2 relatively healthy Pokemon in the back. I think here we can just go for the Golisopod and go for the Shadow Claw farm down. Nope, bringing in the Typhlosion. Oh no, we get the last second 1 HP CMP Aqua Jet. Oh my goodness, I nearly sold another game. I'm telling you guys, I am not good at this. No more free lead wins in the next match. It's going to be Shadow Alola Ninetales now leading into the Primeape. Primeape, I feel like as if they're going to fire off the close combat immediately, so you'll see me intentionally play into the losing CMP tie, a strategy not often employed. However, they go for the close combat, their defense is -2, and this Psyshock would KO, so they are forced to put up a shield. They switch out into a Steelix, but Steelix is going to be met with Typhlosion. Typhlosion having a great time going for Incinerate after Incinerate, bringing this very bulky Pokemon's HP down 1 Incinerate at a time. They're firing off Psychic Fangs number 1, and they're already at Psychic Fangs number 2. I will have to respect the second one, and I will have to throw energy to remove them from the field. You're going to see me fire off the Blast Burn here on alignment to preserve as much HP on my Typhlosion as possible. We both got 1 shield remaining. In comes the Primeape. Primeape going to be met with a Thunder Punch. This could very easily be a Blast Burn that would very easily KO. We're going to switch out of the Typhlosion as we are -2 in our defense. The Primeape hesitates on throwing their energy, and that proves to be a massive mistake as Psyshock will pick up the KO. In the back, it's going to be Jellicent. They farm down the Ninetales, but Golisopod is going to be able to come in, and with a shield advantage, that's not a winning matchup for Jelly. GG's to this trainer. In the next match, Shadow Alola Ninetales into Shadow Alola Ninetales. What is this? Is this person just me? Oh, he's on Charm. Oh, no. Oh man, we're gonna have to teach this man a lesson. What is this Charm doing in my Ultra League? Firing off a Psyshock onto their Alola Ninetales. They are very much at a pacing detriment here. Firing off yet another Psyshock, putting some pressure on their Ninetales, and they are going to shield it once but not twice. That's fine. We safe switch into Golisopod and catch what I hope is a Weather Ball, but what's most likely to be a Psyshock. Psyshock connects for some decent damage. In comes their Giratina, and I feel like I know what this team is. I really want to be wrong with what I believe this team to be, but I guess we'll take a look. I think seasoned Go Battle League players will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is some cringe nonsense, very old school Ultra League team. We are going to fire off an Aqua Jet, and I believe this was a CMP tie, so if it was, we may as well just let the Golisopod go down. That's exactly what we're going to decide to do. We do have 2 shields, and This is massive because although our Ninetales is low, we bring in our Typhlosion, get the farm down of their Ninetales, not before they're able to make a move. But this is so fine for us because Typhlosion's just going to be able to run away with this game, as in comes the Giratina. They have a third Pokemon not willing to bring it in, and we're baiting. I think we know exactly what's in the back. The Thunder Punch grabs the shield, and now they are going to fire off a move. I'm going to shield this up, as we know. It's no spoilers. This is Giratina Double Charm. We're firing off a Thunder Punch now that the Giratina is very, very low. We are going to be able to handily take care of it with this Thunder Punch. Down it goes. In comes a Sylveon in the back. Sylveon is not a Pokemon you see very often, but I suppose if you're running Giratina Double Charm, maybe you don't have one of the newer Charmers like Dashbun. That's going to be a GG's. Not a very good lead in the next match. It's going to be Shadow Alolan Ninetales leading into Talonflame. We're going to fire off one Powder Snow and switch into Golisopod so that the Incinerate registers onto the Golisopod but not the Ninetales. Unfortunately, I fire off my energy there on alignment, meaning that that very large energy head start we had with our Golisopod is not going to mean very much. Firing off another Aqua Jet onto the Jellicent. Jellicent now approaching 50% HP. And they are now incredibly low with the combinations of the resisted charge moves and the Shadow Claw. Shadow Ball hits for very heavy damage, firing off yet another Aqua Jet. Now we should be able to pivot out, and that's exactly what we're looking to do, getting ahead on energy with Typhlosion. They fire off a move. I'm just going to shield this up. The reason being is because if I'm going to win this game, it's going to be through energy management on the Typhlosion. They bring in their Golisopod. Golisopod taking neutral damage from the Incinerates and potentially super effective from the Thunder Punches. Thunder Punch does a massive amount of damage. They fire off their energy on very poor timing there. And now Liquidation as well. Oh my goodness, the Incinerate down. We have two shields down. This is not the best situation for us to be a part of. We still have a full health Alolan Ninetales, but we switch and catch their move onto the low HP Golisopod. Oh my goodness, the Brave Bird as well. They're forced to switch out. In comes the Ninetales, getting the farm down onto the Jellicent. And now we're going to be able to fire off Weather Ball after Weather Ball, getting this Talonflame quite low. And we have the back-to-back Thunder Punches loaded. So if they don't throw their energy, that is perfectly fine, because we're going to be able to win the CMP tie over the Talonflame, and they're forced to throw energy at this Ninetales. If they have the back-to-back here, we lose. This is going to be very close. They go for the Flame Charge. We get the zero-turn switch into the Typhlosion. The Thunder Punch is going to grab the final shield, but we've got the back-to-back loaded. So this is going to be a very good game to this opponent. We managed our energy on Typhlosion perfectly, and we were able to beat a very hard lead. Getting into the next game, the leads are not getting much better. It is Shadow Alolan Ninetales into Shadow Jizang. This is not looking the best. I am going to fire off 4 Powder Snows, wait a turn, switch into Typhlosion, get the catch of the Sludge. This is still going to do a lot of damage on Typhlosion, but we get the Incinerate head start that we need. And now we're looking to fire off a move, but they throw their energy on alignment. This is massive. It's a Brutal Swing. And now in comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr into a 100 energy Typhlosion, maybe not the most desirable spot to be in. I think that I can make another move while throwing on proper timing. Unfortunately, all 2 of those Thunder Punches just get absolutely denied because we get Shadow Claw down. Not the best spot. They fire off a Hydro Cannon at the Golisopod. Really can't afford to bring in Ninetales anywhere on this team, unfortunately. They're going to fire off another Hydro Cannon, and now we are going to give up our final shield. An X-Scissor is going to be thrown at the Feraligatr, looking to pick up the KO. Not going to be quite enough. In comes a Virizion in the back, and we finally have a place to put the Ninetales. They are baiting it out for very good reason here. They're going to fire off the Sacred Sword. Leaf Blade is a more efficient move to go for in neutral situations, although Sacred Sword is Legacy, so I can understand why some people would want to tap on the Legacy move. It's not the more efficient move to go for. We play into the winning CMP tie. Ninetales going to be able to fire off a Weather Ball, which would KO. They are going to now be tasked with either bringing in the Weezing or bringing in the Feraligatr. Weezing able to make a move here. If this is a Brutal Swing, we live, but it's a Sludge. Not the best. In comes the Feraligatr. It all comes down to this. Are we going to be able to live this Hydra Cannon? Hydra Cannon KOs the Golisopod. That's a good game. Getting into the next game, Shadow Alola Ninetales into Ampharos. Ampharos generally like to run the bait move of Brutal Swing. We're going to see that one immediately switch out, kind of telegraphing that they do have the bait move of Brutal Swing. And they have a Mew save switch. This could be anything. It could be a Wild Charge, which would like one-shot my Golisopod. Fortunately, we are able to live as it's only going to be a Psyshock. Psyshock, very survivable for the Golisopod, firing off an X-Scissor on the CMP tie. We win the CMP. Unfortunately, the X-Scissor is just not enough to KO. We're going to no-shield once again. It's just another Psyshock, and we are able to farm down the Mew. Not a sentence often said in the Ultra League. In comes the Ampharos for the 1-volt switch farm down. And now we're bringing in the Ninetales. Ninetales going to be able to fire off a Weather Ball here. And the Ampharos actually decides to shield it up. That is quite to my surprise. They're going to fire off yet another move here. I'm not going to shield this one up, as it's likely just going to be a Trailblaze, which wouldn't do that much damage anyway. I'm going to fire off yet another Weather Ball here, and now putting some serious pressure on this Ampharos. They no-shield it, so I'm throwing one, switching into the Typhlosion. They don't realize they're in 2 Incinerate range, and they top left. GG's. We've made it to the final game of the video. Shadow Alola Ninetales back on easy street as we lead into a Driplim. Driplim is going to stay in, firing off Astonish after Astonish. I'm going to fire off a move only on 7 if I am able to make it. And now I'm throwing energy with this Ninetales because they don't know that I don't have Dazzling Gleam, and it would be pretty easy to fake the Dazzling Gleam. They are going to fire off a move onto the Ninetales here. I'm going to decide to shield it up, knowing that Driplim is on Astonish. That superpower would probably put me in Astonish downrange and would be a very uncomfortable experience for the Ninetales. We get the double bait onto the Malamar, and this Ninetales is putting in so much work. We get both shields. They double superpower. Back in comes the Drifblim. Ninetales core breaking a team with a move that it doesn't even have. Weather Ball doing a lot of damage. They're going to fire off a move onto the Typhlosion. They had enough time to react while throwing that Astonish that this is going to be the Shadow Ball. It does a lot of damage, but not quite enough. Typhlosion gets the Incinerate farm down. What is it they decide to bring in? Likely back in comes the Malamar so they can attempt a Psywave farm down. We're going to have to see. Firing off the Thunder Punch immediately to deny that Psywave farm down. However, since the Malamar double shielded earlier, it is quite healthy. I could have potentially made a move. They go for a snipe with the Cobalion. Cobalion is going to be a little bit problematic here as my Cobalion answer's dead. So now I'm going to bring in the Golisopod, fire off an Aqua Jet on 7, and this is going to get tricky. If they land a Stone Edge on me, they waited the turn as well to make sure that Golisopod was still on their screen. They fire off the Stone Edge, does do a sizable amount of damage. I'm going to fire off 2 more Shadow Claws and the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet going to do a sizable amount onto Cobalion. Cobalion forced to throw energy here. If this is shy of the Stone Edge, I don't think I get KO'd. It's a Sacred Sword. Unfortunately, the Sacred Sword does do it. In comes the Malamar. And now, I think I need an undercharge here, but I'm full charging the Weather Ball. Down goes the Malamar. Can we make another Weather Ball? This is only a resisted Weather Ball. Cobalion's pretty bulky, but it still picks up the knockout. GG's. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. I'm going to go ahead and stick Shadow Alola Ninetales currently in the wasted 600,000 Stardust category. And the reason for that is because it doesn't really have that many targets. Sure, if you land onto a Zygarde or Driplim or some other Pokemon like Cradily weak to Ice, then you're going to be having a good time. But other than that, its total amount of targets is not that high. So I can't justify recommending that you guys build it, but that's what this video is for. With all that being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.